Woohoo! And welcome back to another Shine Spotlight episode where I'm featuring the inspiring AnnMiszczak. This girl has been a mind-blowing, inspirational story to watch. And I have had the pleasure of knowing Ann for the last 4 years, right? About 4 years.
Yeah.
Ann stumbled upon Shine Tribe, and it was the most magical connection. She has this gift at being able to transform some of the past pains and the past traumas that she's had in her life into a message of empowerment. And when I met Ann, she was at a turning point in her life where she had just gone through a very life-changing surgery. Did you have a hysterectomy?
No, they took out my tubes.
Okay, they took out your tube. So you had this experience, this like surgery that changed you on an emotional level and also probably brought up a lot of old past pain. So tonight on the Shine Spotlight, we're going to be talking about how Ann has transformed those traumas into becoming a mental health advocate, becoming an entrepreneur, a mompreneur to a little starseed. And so if you're someone who's in that transition phase, because here we are yet again at another turning point, would you say? So we're at a turning point. So this is going to be the perfect time for someone who's going through those transitions, because no matter what level you're at or what, experience you're gaining, you're always going to come back to this full circle, like turning point where you're like, okay, it's time to shift. Now I've learned my lesson. So I'm so excited to dive in tonight and showcase your sparkle magic. Ann, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and, how did you get to where you are today?
So I'm Ann. I'm also one of the people that tends to approve everybody in Shine Tribe.
Yeah, so for all of you that don't know, Ann is our resident mama of Shine Tribe. She has really taken on this beautiful nurturing role to approve everyone, to make sure that I don't miss anyone's comments if someone's asking questions, which thank you, by the way, because I have a very busy life, and Ann has really stepped into the role of assisting me, and she was an integral part in helping me to birth Shine School. She was there every single step of the way, helping to keep me on task while I was doing that and helping me to promote and get Shine Tribe out there. She's been a part of it. And I just want to extend my gratitude just really quickly and just say thank you so much for, having the faith and the courage to just take that leap of faith with me. And I mean, look at where we're at today. Isn't it incredible?
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. So kind of my backstory a little bit is I grew up, I was raised by a trucker. My dad was a single parent after he divorced my mom when I was 5. And from the age of 5 until just before I turned 12, he had custody of us, of me and my older sister. And then we moved into my mom's house and she had custody of us until we eventually left. And within those years, I went through a lot of trauma and abuse on every level that there is. Majority of it coming from my dad, different aspects coming from my sister or my mom. So I had a lot of history with my family unit as abusive, and then I just kind of collected other people throughout my life that just added to it. And then eventually that cycle kind of broke, which I'm happy it did. And looking back now, I see the timing was perfect. And that actually led to where I'm at now, where I'm married. I've been with my husband for almost 9 years. We're on 8.5 years together. We have 5 kids, 2 separately. So he has 2 from his first marriage. I have 2 from my previous relationship. And then our daughter, Calliope. So she kind of connects our blended family. So that's kind of my personal backstory. As far as entrepreneurship, that all started in 2015. And when I found Shine Tribe, that was 2016. So I had a full year before everything really clicked. So in 2015, when I started, I was trying to work from home. I was doing Beachbody, which, having a history of anorexia, it just kind of fed that little wolf that I didn't realize was existing still. So that was very brief. And so I was trying to find other ways to work from home. So our daughter Calliope was home, and it was the easiest thing for us to save on childcare and things like that was for me to be working from home rather than basically working to pay for childcare. So that eventually led me to discovering virtual assisting. And I am now 4 years, almost 5, into running a virtual assistant business, which is now Am Virtual Services, LLC, as of August 12th of this year.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. It was really scary because I was like, oh, no, I don't want to be official. And then I got the LLC and I was like, oh, I'm a big girl.
What do you think that fear was of becoming official? Because it sounds like you celebrated as soon as it happened. So what do you think stopped you or made that fear come up for you?
I've always had the fear of authority. I've always struggled with it, with other people having authority over me, or being seen as the authority, which stems from all of my trauma and things like that. But for me, it was, I set out to have the goal, like, okay, I have to get my license. I need the LLC. Like, this needs to happen, because I knew that it did, to up level my business and grow it where I want it to go. So I had the goal, I had the mindset, like, it's going to happen. We're going to do this. And then when I got the funds that came in, because I got a new client, well, an old client came back. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I have the money now. Now, what am I supposed to do with this? And so I was like, okay, well, let's do the LLC and I'll get it and be done and like get everything moving forward. So as I'm filling out the application and doing everything online, like, I'm crying and I'm like overheated. My husband's like sitting next to me. I was like, I need you to just support me while I do this. And he's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm becoming an LLC right now. And he's like, oh, isn't that a good thing? And I was like, it is. He's like, then why are you crying? And I was like, because it's big, but it's happy tears. And like Calliope was really concerned. She's like, why are you crying, Mom? Like, oh, I can't talk. And then Dustin was like, they're happy tears, Calliope. It's okay.
Isn't it crazy?
I pushed myself through that.
Isn't it crazy what can happen when you just have the courage to push yourself, like you said, through that, the fears and the tears, because they all come up along the entire journey. So we know that you've had a traumatic experience in your childhood, a very rough upbringing, and we know that you've created a business out of that. Can you take us back to what did that traumatic childhood, how did that negatively affect you? Because now you're someone who is an advocate for mental wellness. And so how did it impact you in a negative way that you had to overcome some of that trauma?
Well, I had manic depression. I had anxiety disorders to the point that I couldn't leave my house without having panic attacks. I also struggled with PTSD and accumulated about 2 decades of my life. And being 29, saying 2 decades of my life I struggled with mental illness, it's kind of sad, but it's also, to me, I see as a strength now.
It's all about perspective, right?
It is. The hindsight is definitely 2020. But I went through a lot of different things. I went to self-numbing, self-medicating. I was actually an alcoholic by the time I was 15.
Wow.
Which is something that a lot of people actually don't really know, because sometimes they'll see, like, I'll post like a picture of wine, which is pretty much the only thing I drink anymore, if that, and that's rare. But it consumed my life basically from 12, when my mom got custody of us, until like 22.
How did you learn to like become an alcoholic at 12?
It was the only thing available, and it was how to fit in with everybody else.
Okay, so it was from like outside social pressure. It wasn't like I'm sneaking into my dad's gin cabinet or anything like that.
No, both of my parents, well, my mom drank, but it was more like she drank with her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And we were always told, don't touch it. So that's kind of where it ended.
Yeah.
But then it was more like, oh, let's sneak out with our friends in the trailer park and let's go drink in an abandoned trailer. So that's kind of where that piece started. And then it just continued as a general norm across wherever we lived.
You know what? I grew up in a trailer park too, honey. So I feel like no matter where you come from, no matter, and we even owned the damn thing. So at least we were entrepreneurs. You know what I'm saying? Like, no matter where you come from, like, you can literally transform any kind of past pain, any kind of negative belief. Cause it sounds like you probably picked up a lot of negative beliefs in self-worth. If you had struggled with being anorexic, then there was some self-confidence issues, I'm sure, going on. So we know like how that negatively affected you. Like, what was the turning point for you where you're like, okay, F this, enough is enough. I need to change. And I know it can't be that comment where I was like, hey, show me your work, do your website. But like, what was that turning point for you?
Actually, that turning point for me was when I was 20 years old, and on my 20th birthday, my sister told me, look, we don't have enough room for you and the boys, which is my sons, because I had them when I was 17 and 18. And she's like, we don't have any room for you guys, so like you have to find somewhere to go. And you have to do it like today. So happy 20. And that was kind of the point where I sat on the porch, like freaking out and panicking. And like, I was chain smoking a lot, trying to figure out what was going to happen. Like, where was I going to go? What was I going to do with the kids? Was I really going to couch surf with them? And the trailer park that we happened to be living in at that time was in the same town as my son's grandmother on the other side, on their dad's side of the family. And so I sat there and I was like, okay, well, I don't know of anywhere that's going to take all three of us, and I'm not going to take them to a shelter because I know that they're already packed and it's not really somewhere that I want them to be. So I called his mom, my ex's mom, and I said, hey, I need you to take the boys until I get on my feet and I'm in my own place. And she's like, okay, well, I need you to really think about this. Are you prepared for me to have them until you actually are on your feet? And she's like, think about it and then call me back. And so I did. And I ended up making the choice for them, giving them the stability because she owned her home. It was her and her husband that were living there. And so I chose for my sons to go be with her and create the foundation and the stability that they needed because I wasn't able to do that. Well, shortly after that, I ended up actually back in my home state of Oregon. I currently live in Washington. And I was couch surfing with a friend of mine from elementary school and middle school. And she's like, hey, I got to go to work. And I was like, okay, well, where do you work? And she's like, oh, well, I dance at this club. And she's, oh, you should start. You know, that would be a great way for you to get money. Well, we lied. Said I was 22. I was 20. And I worked there for about a month before I found out from my ex that his mom had filed paperwork to get custody of the boys permanently. And with me living out of state, it was me abandoning my kids. So I panicked and I came home and I stayed with my mom for like a week before she asked, okay, well, what are you going to do? Like, what's your plan? And I was like, I don't know. I just knew that I had to be here because that way I could still see the boys and not lose my rights. So that was kind of the big in my face reality slap that kind of pushed me to, okay, let's focus on getting better. How do I get better? What's the next steps?
What was the first thing that you were led to? I feel like anytime you make that decision in your life where you're like, I need to change something, I need to get better, like help, you put like a SOS out to spirit and you're like, I don't know, like just lead the way. What was the first thing that showed up for you?
My husband.
Ah, same. Oh, so cool.
So I was at my mom's and I noticed that his wife, as far as I knew, was friends with my ex on Facebook. And so I went to her page and it said separated. And I was like, interesting. Because we had met when I was pregnant with my second son. His ex-wife was pregnant with their second kid. We had the same due date, and I delivered 2 weeks early and she delivered a week late. So our second kids are literally 3 weeks apart. So I found him on Facebook and it said separated. So I sent him a friend request and that's how it started.
Literally so similar. Chris sent me a friend request on MySpace. That's like how long ago we met. And it was just, I wrote back with some sarcastic, like, if you're going to add me, at least say something intriguing. And he wrote back this long poem about finding life's elixir. And it was like a code word. Like when he said the word elixir, everything in my soul body was like, he's the one. And I never doubted that feeling. And that's been the feeling that I have like grabbed for ever since. I've been doing it ever since I was a little kid. And, you know, that's something that you have said that Shine School's helped you with, is like developing your intuition and really trusting it, because we all hear it. We all hear the inner voice. Don't eat that. Don't hang out with that person. Break up with them. You're so much better than, I mean, we all hear it, right? But it's like taking the action and trusting that it's valid. So can you walk me through like how, like, so you met your husband, things started changing, like how did you start to develop like trusting your inner voice? Like what, because it was obviously leading the way for you.
Yeah. I didn't really start trusting myself until Shine School. Prior to that, it was more of, I was doing things because I thought it was like the thing to do. So, like I moved in with my husband, boyfriend at the time. We weren't even boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. We were friends at the time. And he's like, hey, my ex-wife moved out. I have an extra room. You can come stay here and it'll be a place for you to get stable and you can still see your kids. So that's how that started. And then it became more of like, okay, well, if I have a room, what's the next thing I do? Oh, if I get a job. And then having mental health issues, I was like, oh, I can't get like a regular 9-to-5 job because that's going to cause anxiety. I was like, oh, well, maybe I can go to school, because I had my GED, even though I dropped out of high school. So I started looking at different colleges and trying to figure out like where I was going to go. And so I focused on what was the societal norm at that point. And thankfully, my husband was willing to be that rock for me to kind of test the waters and see, oh, this is going to work. Oh, this isn't going to work. And that actually led to me going to therapy. I went every week for 4 years to really, I didn't go to like fix myself. I went to understand myself and to understand what these labels like really meant for me, because I know mental health shows up as a broad spectrum of like, oh, you have anxiety, but it shows up differently per person. So therapy helped me discover like what anxiety was for me and helped me create the coping mechanisms I needed. And I ended up pregnant with Calliope and going through college, which was awesome because I was going for medical assisting. So we did a lot of labs and blood pressures and scales, and then having anorexia in the back of my head as I'm like growing this person every single day, getting weighed. And like, it got to a point in my pregnancy, I was like, I can't face the scale. I can't have you say it out loud. I cannot see what the number is because it's going to cause me major issues. So it was not only a learning curve for me, but it was also a learning curve for the other students to realize that like, hey, this thing does exist for people, and how do we handle that? And that's kind of where the advocacy piece started. And then I let that go, and I was just at home. I never got a job as a medical assistant, even though I went to school for it. And I was with Calliope, and then we got her into the early learning, and it just kind of opened the door of, hey, there's going to be something better, and trusting that there was actually positive people out there, which then led to me going through surgery and then finding the Shine Tribe. I don't even know how I found Shine Tribe. I think it was just like one of those random little, oh, you may like this group. And I was like, sure, join. Because I don't think anybody told me about it. It showed up and I was like, yeah, I'll join, whatever. And then you made a post about needing some help with stuff. And like the day before I joined, I had closed everything. I gave up my business. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. Like, I can't handle anything. And then you posted the comment asking for examples of my work. And I was like, crap, I just deleted everything. Like, okay, I'll have it to you tomorrow. And like the next 24 hours, I put up an entire website. Here's all my stuff. And then as that progressed and getting more to know about like Shine Tribe and kind of listening to you on your lives and the Till videos, I I realized that not only did I have inner mean girls, but it was more of, I do have a voice inside my head, and that voice actually has authority, and to embrace it. So that kind of opened my eyes. And then going through Shine School really was like, okay, well, you have this voice. Who is this voice? What is this voice trying to tell you to do? Like, here's little steps to try and test and see things. So going through that and the different lessons that you have within it really helped me figure out, like, yes, this is something I like. No, this is definitely not me. Yeah. Oh, maybe I'll try this. And then I try things and I'm like, wait a minute. Nope. So that kind of built in the 6-week course, really, okay, here's like a speed course on trusting your intuition. And then after Shine School, it transitioned a little bit into participating more with the information that you and Chris were sharing every Friday. And then not only just like listening to the lives, but actually taking action on like all of my notes, because
yes, that's like
listen to anything.
It's so important. Like, we can tell you information till we are blue in the face, but if you don't take action on it, if you don't do those little tests and try it out, like learning to trust your intuition doesn't just like happen because you make a decision. You have to take action and trust and like go out on a limb when you hear those like weird intuitive nudges. And that moment was life-changing. Think about that. I mean, how many people go out into the world to pursue some path and do nothing with it, which is why I totally chose not to go to college, because I was like, I see through that. I'm not doing that. I'm going to follow and do what I love. And I love that you went and started to follow that norm and then ditched it because it didn't align with what felt right to your life anymore. And then look what kind of magic happened. You gave up, you quit. Mm-hmm. And we all quit. We all have a temper tantrum and throw our shit down and say, I don't want to play anymore. Because we've all been there. Hell, I've done it like 15 times on my own Oracle deck. You know what I mean? Like, But you decided, you know what? I reached out. I gave you the opportunity. The universe responded to your quitting and your temper tantrum and said, no, honey, you have a gift. You have a voice inside of you that's actually powerful and meant to be shared. But you're just tuning into the wrong station. And we need to kind of like clean that up a little bit. And it was literally just someone asking you the opportunity to put it out, like, can I see your work? And you could have not taken action. You could have just been like, well, I deleted it all. I'm a loser. I fucking suck. Like, but you didn't.
That's what I was thinking. Well, I'm like, I hate my website.
You may have been thinking that, but you still took the action. And that is the magic that I wanted to create in Shine School, is that you're going to have crazy mean girl thoughts, especially every month if you're on your cycle. Okay. They're going to come up, but it's like, what tools have you been equipped with that help you move through that negativity and move through the doubt? And you are just such a shining example of that courage to just put it out there and just to take action and to trust. So what would you say, like, sharing your story is just so incredible. What would you say is like your biggest struggle right now?
I would have to say transitions, because not only is my business transitioning, because I went from like oh yeah, I have a hobby business that I've done for 3 years, to, oh, it's an LLC. Like, I'm officially like with the state and everything, like everybody knows my stuff now. But also the transitions that are happening personally as well with my family. So for me, the biggest thing is like the transition that's happening with my daughter. I was not aware that motherhood would actually be transitional phases, like over and over and over, because you always see people talking about like the milestones for like your baby, making sure that they're crawling and they're walking and focused on the kid, versus, okay, now that your child's walking, you're going to change as well, because now you have to chase this little thing that's running around grabbing everything. And then they go to school and you have to go through that transition. And then you're like, okay, I'm basically an empty nester, because for these set hours a day, like, nobody's home besides me, which actually led to us rescuing our 2 cats, because I decided that instead of going back to therapy, I needed a companion animal so that I could work from home and not lean on Calliope, and like actually let her go learn and develop her own skills and things. So now I have my cat Sedona, and then we gave her a companion pet, Tara. And we didn't know it when we got them, but they're 2.5 months apart in age.
Aw, I love that. You know what's crazy? Like, speaking of transitions, I just had this like mind-blowing epiphany recently where I was noticing that we go through stages as humans. Like, think about like terrible twos and like your teens. Like there's like a category. I don't have children, so I'm not exactly in tune with like what the 8s and the 12s are, but there's some stuff going down at each level, right? And so what I thought was mind-blowing, what you just said, is that you as a parent is going to shift and change while she shifts and changes. But here's what my mind-blowing epiphany recently was. So we go through these terrible twos. 18, I was like depressed and angsty, and like we go through all that. So I asked myself a profound question, and I want you guys to do the same. What stage am I currently in that I'm going to look back on and wish that I didn't waste my time doing blank? Because we look back when we're 18 and we're like, wow, I wasted so much time on like focusing on my body image. Like, geez, like I was a hottie. What was wrong? Or, whatever. Like, so I asked myself that deep soul question, and the answer I got was painful, man. And it was complaining, and gratitude is a huge lesson I teach in Shine School. So when that truth hit me hard. I was like, oh no, I love things, like all the things, like, what do you mean? And so I challenged myself to really look at my thoughts, the way that I'm responding to people. Like, am I getting irritated if someone's slow in front of me? Like, because that is that kind of like lower vibrational energy. So it was just a really eye-opening thing for me to challenge myself, to ask myself that truth. So what word came up for you, or what thing came up for you? Like, you're going to look back on this year of your life and say, wow, I wish I didn't waste time doing what?
So the first word that came to my mind was worrying, because that covers my entire life up until this point.
Yeah.
Whether it's worrying about myself, worrying about what other people think of me, worrying about like, if I'm doing the right thing as a mom, if I'm doing the right thing as a wife, if I'm doing the right thing as like a woman, worry, like I want to let it go. I kind of feel like I have let it go because I push through it. So like every time it comes up, I'm like, okay, why is this coming up? And then I realize, oh, you're standing at like the edge of your comfort zone. You're going to push out. Yeah. You're going to create worry. It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think worry is definitely my word.
Yeah. Chris always says worry is living in the future and planning to fail. So when we notice when worry comes up, all we have to do is just plan to win, like create a vision in our mind that feels good, because worry only comes up when we make a thought about something that isn't here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because otherwise it would be like a different emotion, right? We wouldn't be worrying about a bear being in the thing. We'd be just terrified AF, you know what I mean? Like it'd be a whole nother kind of emotion. So I love that you're able to kind of just like take that grasp and realize like, okay, worry does come up when I'm at the edge of my comfort zone. It's like I get short and snippy when people ask stupid questions when I'm PMSing. Like, know your triggers, right? And if worry is a trigger for you, recognize when it comes up. What is it triggering? Well, it's triggering that you're at the edge of your comfort zone. So when worry arises, you can immediately like, oh, yep, I'm about to expand. Like, let's just go for it. So I would say identify your triggers, whether it be worry or joy or anger or anything like that. They really do show you, a look at to who, inside to who you are. Like you said, you were going to figure out who am I? That was the life-changing question that I asked myself that began this whole woo-woo journey. So yeah. One thing, any like thoughts on that? One thing I was really excited about, I had this idea, since we're on the Shine Spotlight, I felt like it would be a good idea to pull a card from my Shine from the Inside Oracle. We're so close to launching, but I just feel like this would be a great way to like tune into like your soul's energy to see what is it that you need most in your life? Where's that area that we could focus on to up level your shine and really expand? Before I pull a card, is there any last words of wisdom that you feel called to share?
Yeah, I think like the main thing that's coming up is trusting the crazy. And what I mean by that is like the things that either sound really crazy to do or even think about, because there's something in there that either you need to learn or you need to see, because you may have already learned it, but you haven't seen it before. I know you've talked about like lessons or repeating and repeating until you get the message. And I tend to get those when crazy things happen. And it's like in other people's lives. Like I have a friend who, for some reason, just cannot get a handle on relationships. And it then reflects on how she feels about herself. I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. And I think about like my own histories with relationships and things. Or when I have, oddly enough, issues with my husband, because we just, as of yesterday, went through this weird little epiphany communication aha moment of the chaos that tends to happen is when I get super stressed out, that I get more aggressive, which I've known as a trigger, but I haven't actually like seen it. And he was vulnerable enough with me to say, hey, you're getting like this again. Like, I need you to see this so we can fix it and we can get past it. And then I was journaling about it and I realized that, oh, that's Annie showing up. And what I mean by that is that was my nickname when I was younger, was Annie. The, what is it, Alien Ant Farm song? Are
you okay? Are you okay,
yes,
Annie?
Yes, that was my theme song from everybody who knew me. So when I say Annie, that's literally who I was. And then Anne is who I am now. Because I let that part of me go. I let the chaos go. I let the uncomfortable beliefs that other people had placed on me go. And then I just did a post the other day about this, actually, because I had gone through the surgery 3 years ago, which is about when I when we started working together for my virtual assisting, and I really said, okay, I'm going to make this work. Like, this is going to work in 2017. And I realized that I didn't find out until 2017 that I had actually coded on the table during the operation. And I couldn't figure out why when I woke up, I didn't feel the same. Like, I knew that they had taken my tube. So like, I knew that there was like the physical difference, but there was something else that was like, oh, this isn't my life. So the more that I started tapping into my intuition and finding everything within myself, finding the answers within myself and not seeking other people, it actually led me to realizing that during surgery, Annie left, like was literally taken out of my body and was done. And it was like, okay, Anne is birthing and this is the moment that it's happening. But I didn't realize it until 3 years later, because I was literally just raw and open like a child is, where they absorb all the information as they're growing and absorbing from family. They're learning it from neighbors. They're learning it from animals. And that's kind of where like Shine School came in, going through Tell, all of that. Just really, I was absorbing everything. And then I realized that the chaos that was coming up and that has been coming up is more of, yeah, you went through that. You know this. Here's your wisdom. Here's proof of wisdom. Here's this. And it's seeing it in other people's lives. And then when things come back full circle into my own life, I'm kind of like, oh, well, yeah, I know that. Okay. Why am I second guessing? And then my intuition's kind of like, because you needed the wake up call.
It's proof.
Mm-hmm.
It's proof, because you need those reminders and those moments that like say you've got this. And sometimes we need them over and over and over again until we build that confidence, right? You know, it's interesting that you mentioned the word wisdom, because as you were sharing those final thoughts, all I could think of was like, oh my God, so much wisdom is like pouring from you right now. And I hope that so many people have taken away from this, that you can change, that no matter what your background is, no matter what your beliefs are, it doesn't create your future if you choose to change those thoughts. And you kept mentioning TEL, and I just wanted to give everyone like the heads up that doesn't know. TEL is the elevated life, where my husband Chris and I teach these mindset shifts, because every change in your life, every miracle is a shift in perception. So if we can give ourselves the mindset shifts and new programs to operate from, because people don't realize they're operating from programs. I was just yelling at my cat the other day, and I stopped and looked at Chris and I was like, I'm my mother. Oh my God. Like, that's how my mom yells at, like, when shit goes crazy. And I looked at him and I said, cancel that. Like, I'm breaking the cycle. Like, that was a learned behavior, and I'm over that. You know what I mean? So I think it's really beautiful to see you and here shining your light on the spotlight, showing that you can break the cycle, that you can be the change no matter where you come from, no matter what you've experienced. Honestly, the more fucked up your childhood is and the harder it is, like, the more inspiring your message is going to be, and the more people you're going to impact. So I just commend you for having the courage to actually share your story, because that is where the transformation is for people, is recognizing, like, oh my God, I'm not alone. I was over 200 pounds and I wanted to lose weight so badly. And my turning point was when I met a woman that I worked with who said she had lost 100 pounds. And I was like, say what? You did that? Show me a picture. And she showed me a before and after. And that was enough proof that someone else could do it. So I knew that I could do it. So I hope that everyone looks at people that are sharing their story or are successful or whatever. Take that inspiration and know that you have the same power within you to apply the action. I would say action is the takeaway from this conversation, is you've taken action to make those changes. You didn't just wish for it or hope for it. You said yes when the opportunity showed up. So congratulations on that, Ann.
Well, thank you.
So I'm going to shuffle with intention that we pull a card for an area that we need to focus on, that you can pay attention to right now to help you expand and to shine your light. This will be from my Shine from the Inside Oracle that's about to launch. And while I'm shuffling, if you just want to share where people can find you, your website, your Instagram, where are you hanging out at, so people can come chit chat?
Yeah. So I actually am mostly in Shine Tribe.
Yay!
Or you can find me on Instagram at AnnMiszczak. I will be nice and not try to spell that out loud for you guys, because it gets very
confusing.
Very, like, veteran in me kicks out, like Marco, Ingo, Scott.
Oh yeah, we're gone. We're lost. I just told Ann today, it has been, it's been 3 years, and today was the first day that I actually spelled her name right without having to look it up. So we'll leave all that information in the comments for you so that you guys can reach out. And if you're in need of someone to assist you, this girl has got your back. She can help you find the things that you didn't even know you needed help with, which is great. So I'm going to pull this card for you, Ann, and see, oh, it just like popped up. That was so cool. And see what we can focus on. I love this card so much. This says, don't be afraid to stand out.
It's short hair.
Yes. You know what? I had all of my family members draw a card from my deck, and the most inspiring woman to me is my grandmother. And this is the card that she pulled. So to give you a lesson from my grandmother, love hard. She loves so hard. She nurtures so well, but she takes no fucking bullshit. This card is a reminder that you have a message to share, that the more confident you are in sharing your unique sparkle magic, the more you move other people, the more you inspire other people. So don't be afraid to make those bold moves, even if they take you outside your comfort zone. So I want to know, what's your next big, bold move?
It's actually launching my podcast. And it's going to be the Starseed Babes podcast. And I've been holding on to it for a while. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know if I'm ready. And then the more and more I'm up-leveling in my business, I'm realizing, like, okay, I need to do my podcast. I need to get speaking and talking and be bold and be showing up and being that quote unquote expert in whether it's my business or just advocacy. So my podcast is officially launching.
Yes, girl.
Year of 2019. I have my intro. I have all of the things. Now I just have to actually sit down and record everything because I've been holding on to it. So I have like episode 1, we're going to talk about this. Yeah. So it's going to be a balance of woo with just navigating your life in general. So when the chaos comes up, how do you calm yourself? Or
ooh, that was powerful.
One of the ones that I'm really excited about is breaking up with your history. For me, it's going to be all about like saying goodbye to Annie and kind of tying that into how other people can take where they're at now and say, okay, bye to who you were, and realize that your wisdom is what you're carrying. It's not the excess baggage.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I feel like that could be like written on a billboard to leave your legacy behind. And I am just so thankful for all of that wisdom that you've shared here on the Shine Spotlight. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're someone who wants to showcase your unique sparkle magic, then reach out and DM me with some information and I will let you know how you can apply for the Shine Spotlight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Anne, for sharing your unique sparkle magic with the world here on the Shine Spotlight. We will catch you guys later. Peace.